The world of sports is changing. A fierce debate now rages. It centers on who gets to compete in women's events. Specifically, the discussion involves transgender women, individuals assigned male at birth, participating in female categories. This isn't just a marginal issue. It has become a global conversation, touching on fairness, safety, and the very definition of women's sports. Many people are deeply concerned. They see a potential threat to the integrity of female athletic competition, a space hard-won by generations of women. The questions raised are complex and evoke strong emotions on all sides. This debate is not new, but it has gained significant traction recently. We see it in news headlines, we hear it in policy discussions. Lawmakers are grappling with it. Sporting bodies are issuing new guidelines. The core of the issue often circles back to a fundamental question. What defines a fair playing field for women? For many, this question is intrinsically linked to biology. They argue that the historical and current understanding of women's sports is rooted in the biological differences between sexes. This understanding, they feel, is now under challenge. The conversation has become increasingly prominent, fueled by various events and policy shifts. As of early 2025, the landscape is marked by decisive actions. For instance, a White House executive order issued on February 5, 2025, aimed to preserve opportunities for women and girls in sports. This order explicitly sought to prevent biological males from competing in women's sports, citing Title IX. Such governmental interventions highlight the seriousness with which this issue is being approached at the highest levels, reflecting widespread public concern over the future of female athletics and fair play. These developments underscore a growing movement, a movement that believes women's sports are under genuine attack. The argument is straightforward. If the category of woman in sports is not defined by biological sex, then women's sports lose their specific purpose. This purpose, advocates say, was to create a protected space for female athletes to compete fairly against each other. They believe this protected space is now at risk. The debate is not just about abstract principles, it's about tangible outcomes for girls and women in locker rooms and on podiums across the nation and the world. Central to the concerns is the concept of biological fairness. This idea forms the bedrock of the argument for many who question the inclusion of trans women in female sports. Proponents of this view emphasize that individuals assigned male at birth, who experience male puberty, generally develop distinct physiological advantages. These advantages, they contend, are not fully eliminated by hormone therapy. They point to differences in bone density, muscle mass, lung capacity, and other physical attributes that contribute significantly to athletic performance. These are not minor differences, they are substantial. These biological differences matter profoundly in sports. Athletic competitions are often decided by fractions of a second or tiny margins of strength and endurance. If one group of athletes possesses inherent physical advantages derived from male puberty, many believe it creates an uneven playing field. This isn't about animosity, it's about acknowledging what they see as material facts. The argument is that these biological realities cannot be ignored if fair competition is the goal. Ignoring them, they say, disadvantages athletes who are biologically female from birth. Consider the effects of testosterone. Male puberty typically results in higher testosterone levels. This hormone plays a crucial role in developing greater muscle strength and bone mass. Even with subsequent testosterone suppression as part of a gender transition, some research and many anecdotal accounts suggest that some of these developmental advantages may persist. This is a key point of concern. Critics argue that if these advantages remain, even partially, then cisgender female athletes are forced to compete against individuals who retain a physical edge gained through male biological development, undermining fair play. The focus on biological reality is explicit in many recent policy decisions. The White House executive order from February 2025, for example, directly acknowledged and respected fundamental biological differences between the sexes. This was presented as a basis for its policy in athletic competition. The order framed the issue as one of truth. This perspective suggests that fairness in sports can only be achieved if these biological distinctions are upheld within competitive categories, ensuring that athletes compete against those with similar physiological profiles developed through comparable biological pathways. The drive to restrict trans women's participation in female sports is often framed as a protective measure. Advocates argue they are safeguarding fairness, safety, and opportunities specifically for cisgender female athletes. They believe that allowing individuals who have gone through male puberty to compete in women's categories could displace female athletes from teams, podiums, and scholarship opportunities. This isn't just about winning medals, it's about access to the benefits that sports provide, from physical health to educational advancement and personal growth. These opportunities, they argue, were established for biological females. High-profile cases are frequently cited to illustrate these concerns. Instances where trans women have achieved significant success in women's sports, such as weightlifter Laurel Hubbard or cyclist Veronica Ivy, are often highlighted. These examples are used to argue that trans women may outperform cisgender women due to retained biological advantages. These cases galvanize those who believe that the integrity of women's sports is at stake. They see these outcomes not as isolated incidents, but as evidence of a systemic issue that needs urgent redress to protect the competitive chances of biological females. The concern for safety is another significant aspect of this argument, particularly in contact sports. Some believe that inherent differences in strength and physical power could lead to an increased risk of injury for cisgender female athletes when competing against trans women. This apprehension about physical disparities contributes to the call for separate sporting categories based on biological sex at birth. The underlying sentiment is that women and girls deserve to participate in sports without facing what some perceive as avoidable risks due to mismatched physical capabilities stemming from different natal sex development. Legislative action across various states reflects this protective stance. Between 2021 and 2025, numerous states, including Florida, New Jersey, New Hampshire, Kansas, and Ohio, enacted bans on trans girls and women competing in female school sports. A federal bill aiming for a similar ban passed the United States House in 2024, though it did not pass the Senate. These legislative efforts are presented by their supporters as necessary steps to ensure that female athletes have a level playing field, and that the category of women's sports remains meaningful and dedicated to biological females. The debate over trans athletes in women's sports is undeniably contentious. It has created deep divisions, polarizing communities, and even political allies. Public figures who voice concerns about biological fairness, like Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego in May 2025, often face significant backlash from LGBTQ+ advocates. These advocates view such stances as harmful to transgender rights and accuse opponents of echoing discriminatory rhetoric. This highlights the immense challenge finding common ground in a landscape fraught with strong convictions and accusations of harm from multiple perspectives. The core of the conservative argument remains consistent. The unique biological experiences of those assigned male at birth can confer lasting athletic advantages. This, they maintain, makes direct competition with cisgender women fundamentally unfair and potentially unsafe. They believe that policies excluding trans women from female sports are not about animosity towards transgender individuals. Instead, they are presented as necessary measures to uphold the principles of fair play and to protect the specific athletic opportunities created for biological women, as enshrined in frameworks like Title IX. It is crucial to acknowledge the passion on all sides. The desire for inclusion and the demand for fairness are both powerful motivators. While statistical data on the prevalence of trans athletes shows they are a very small percentage of competitors, the debate itself touches upon fundamental principles of equality, identity, and the very nature of sport. The International Olympic Committee's 2021 framework, for example, attempts to balance fairness, inclusion, and non-discrimination. But achieving this balance in practice proves incredibly complex for individual sports federations. Moving forward requires a commitment to respectful dialogue. It demands that we listen to all voices, including those of female athletes who feel their opportunities are threatened and transgender athletes seeking acceptance and the chance to compete. The challenge is to find solutions that uphold the integrity of competitive sports while respecting the dignity of every individual. This may involve exploring different models for competition, further scientific research, and nuanced policies rather than blanket approaches. Ultimately, the goal must be to foster an environment where fairness can coexist with compassion for all athletes.